Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. British band UB40 is one of the most commercially successful groups of all time, with worldwide sales of more than 70 million records and 50 UK singles charts hits. They are easily the most commercially successful UK reggae band of all time. Their two most successful albums, in 1983's Labour of Love and 1993's Promises and Lies, both reached number 1 on the UK albums charts. They are also one of two British bands that hold the record for the most weeks spent on the UK singles charts in the 1980s, with a staggering 214 weeks in total. But for all their commercial success and accolades, UB40 have been dismissed by a lot of reggae fans and purists as being little better than a pop band with no real credibility. The idea for this video came to me on Friday night as I was seated right in the middle of two people having a shouting match of whether UB40 was actually a real reggae band. It wasn't the first time I had heard this debate, as there have always been people that either swear by the Birmingham band's radical beginnings or by their now supposedly lazy, karaoke-friendly reggae pop hybrid sound. But both sides of the argument really packed heavy punches and not only interfered with me enjoying my glass of red wine on Friday night, but it really got me thinking, is UB40 reggae royalty or just rubbish? I'm really interested in reading your thoughts after watching this video, so please leave a comment below. So let's go. To answer this question, we have to take a deep dive into the band's history and music over more than 4 decades. The origins of the band sprang from a violent event that took place on founding member Ali Campbell's birthday. Alistair Ian Campbell, more popularly known as Ali, went to a pub in 1976 to celebrate his 17th birthday. A fight broke out and he was injured by someone who hit him in the face with a glass. He spent a month in the hospital and later applied for a government program that was giving financial compensation to people who are victims of violence. His application was approved in 1978 and he got a payout of £4,500. For an unemployed teenager surviving on weekly welfare checks, it was like winning the lottery. But instead of wasting the cash on clothes and other silly stuff, he invested in musical equipment for himself and his friends, as they had been interested in starting a band. So in mid-1978, Ali, Jimmy Brown and Earl Falconer began to rehearse charting reggae hits together. The group added more members in Ali's brother Robin, Brian Travers, Norman Hassan, Mickey Virtue and Terence Astro Wilson, and they rehearsed every day in the cellar of Earl Falconer's home until the end of 1978. They were all unemployed and living off welfare, so the band's situation inspired the band's name, UB40, which as many know was the name of an unemployment benefit form. They played their first gig on the 9th of February 1979 at the Hares and Hounds pub in Birmingham. As one can guess from the situation of the lads at the beginning of their careers, they came up in very frustrating, difficult circumstances. They were an angry band with a lot to say about the economic, social and political problems plaguing Britain at the time. After doing a handful of gigs in bars around Birmingham, they were discovered by Chrissie Hynde, the lead singer of legendary rock band The Pretenders. She was impressed with the group and chose them to be an opening act during the Pretenders tour. This boosted their popularity in the local pub scene, and they were approached by producer Bob Lamb to record their first album at his home studio in 1980. They recorded 13 of their songs that formed their debut album titled Signing Off, which was released in the same year. It was a riveting and brilliant album that went straight for the necks of politicians and the system, which has disenfranchised millions of youth in the UK and all over the globe. Their music went on to resonate deeply with angry young people and earned the band heavy street credibility. Aside from their message, the sound itself was hard-hitting, mesmerizing and brilliant. My favorite track on that album is The Dreamy and Hypnotic King, which was a tribute to Martin Luther King, a track with excellent instrumentals that stunned the reggae community and was as fundamental as anything that could have come from Steel Pulse, Aswad or Matumbi, who are by then the UK's bona fide kings of reggae. 3 of the album's singles flew into the top 10 in swift succession and showed that the album was not just a critical success but also a commercial hit. Their next album, Present Arms, came out in 1981 and took the revolutionary messaging to the next level with 10 very in-your-face confrontational songs about everything wrong with the world, and especially in the Britain run by Margaret Thatcher. with tracks like 1 in 10, which blasted the Prime Minister over the country's unemployment and poverty figures. The song also went into the top 10 of the UK singles charts, and the album reached number 2 on the album charts. In the same year, they played what has gone down as a spectacular and legendary concert in Cologne at the 1981 Rock Palace Festival, a truly great show by an extremely tight band. They released their next album titled UB40 in 1982, which also spoke to heavy social and political issues. Though not rated as highly as the first 2 albums, it still stands as an authentic, solid reggae album with legit tracks that core reggae fans appreciated. The fans weren't the only ones that saw the revolutionary content and effect of UB40. The band's drummer Jimmy Brown revealed in a recent interview that Margaret Thatcher's government actually ordered the British intelligence agency MI5 to monitor the group. So the question is, how did a radical reggae band become the butt of jokes by hardcore reggae purists? This waning of street credibility began with their 4th studio album, an absolute monster hit in 1983's Labour of Love. The band had attained great success playing reggae music and had always wanted to have an entire album that would cover the songs that the guys had grown up listening to. But they were under pressure by their record label to deliver an album, but didn't have enough original material ready. So the band made 10 covers of classic reggae hits for the album, and it turned out to be a smash hit that went platinum in 6 countries. The biggest song on the album, and what became the group's best known track, was Red Red Wine, which went up to number 1 in the UK charts and 4 other European countries, as well as New Zealand. Other tracks, such as Eric Donaldson's Cherry O Baby, Bob Marley's Keep On Moving, and Jimmy Cliff's Many Rivers to Cross, made up a beautiful and almost perfect album. But with the success of Labour of Love came a softening of tone, and it showed in their next release in 1984's Jeffrey Morgan, which except for 1 or 2 tracks is a pure reggae pop crossover. And this was the same for the 1985 album Bagger Rhythm. They tried to return to their radical roots with Rat in the Kitchen in 1986, but it's not easy making radical music when you're rich and very comfortable. Another big factor which I believe affected their music was the death of Pablo Falconer, elder brother of bassist Earl Falconer, who died in a car accident in 1987. He was one of their producers and also one of those who had been responsible for their hard-hitting roots sound. In 1989, they made Labour of Love 2, another cover of classics, which also did immensely well commercially, with absolute anthems like Kingston Town. The guys also performed the noble deed of making sure that every Jamaican artist that they covered was paid royalties, which many of them had never received. But despite the achievement of introducing legions of new fans to reggae, the guys had earned the tag and being nothing more than a cover band. They continued down this road with every successive album and even did a Labour of Love 3. Anybody who's familiar with the intricacies of the music business can guess that the watering down of UB40 over the years must have also come from pressure by their record label to do more crowd-pleasing and safe material that was guaranteed to sell records as well as get radio airplay. And the band must have felt comfortable with what was a commercially viable formula and settled into it as time went by. Being a British reggae band means that you are always going to be heavily scrutinized, and where the likes of Aswad also dabbled into commercially successful crossover efforts like their first number 1 hit in 1988's Don't Turn Around, I think the absence of a Rastafarian core is sort of what made UB40 easy targets for criticism. Though in the same vein, other Jamaican artists and fans have plenty of regard for the way UB40 not only celebrate the culture, but ensure that the original writers of music get paid. The truth is that UB40's music helped to bridge a gap between homegrown Jamaican music and a global audience. They are like an introduction to reggae for younger audiences who have delved deeper into the material that inspired the band in the first place. So in answering the question of whether UB40 are reggae royalty or just a rubbish karaoke cover band, there's no simple answer. They started out with the authenticity and street cred of the finest reggae band we have ever seen, only to taste success and fail to stay hungry, instead losing focus and deviating from what the band was at the beginning. There's a popular saying that attaining success isn't as hard as maintaining success. And while the sales figures may say otherwise, the critical ratings from reggae fans say something entirely different. So if you ask me, I'd say UB40 is 50% reggae royalty on the strength of their early material and 50% pop band, based on the bulk of what we've seen over the last 3 decades. And this is strictly from a reggae fan's point of view. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, God bless.